Today on TimesCast, Syrian Army defectors organized from Turkey. Markets rally on a European debt deal.
We have at the end of the day is a comprehensive plan which includes all the ingredients.
And 11 people are charged in a $1 billion disability fraud related to Long Island Railroad pensioners.
This is Liam Stack reporting for the New York Times from Antakya, Turkey. Since June, Turkey has been home to thousands of refugees fleeing the violence in neighboring Syria. An unknown number of those are defectors from the Syrian Armed Forces. In recent months, those defectors have organized into an opposition military force called the Free Syrian Army. The majority of its members are fighting the government in Syria, but dozens of them are here, in Turkey, including its commander, Colonel Riyad al-Assad. I interviewed the colonel, and he says that he is committed to overthrowing the regime of President Bashar al-Assad and seeing a civilian government take power in Syria. Colonel Assad claims that he has full operational control of the organization's more than 10,000 soldiers and 18 battalions. Turkey's apparent relationship with the Free Syrian Army marks a dramatic shift in its foreign policy towards Syria, which just 1 year ago was a warm ally. In recent months, Turkey's relationship with Syria has collapsed. Turkish officials are angry because Syria has made repeated promises of political reform, but has so far failed to see them through.
Markets rally on a European debt deal and data showing the U.S. might avoid a double-dip recession.
There's jubilation in the markets in Europe today and a much better tone in the United States after European leaders in Brussels this morning reached an agreement on solving the European debt crisis after weeks of uncertainty. They made progress on three important fronts: a 50% haircut for investors who hold Greek bonds, recapitalization of banks in Europe, and thirdly, a much enhanced €1 trillion bailout fund which can be used to fight crises should they spread to other countries like Italy. The haircut on Greek bonds means that European banks that hold Greek debt will see their investments cut by a half to try and help the country stabilize itself.
From our side, the Greek people are making a superhuman effort to put our house in order.
This is significant because it looks as though Europe is addressing its problems. If it hadn't reached a deal, it would have been a disaster. Festering problems in Europe have been dragging down the US economy, but at least for now it seems to have turned the corner. Gross domestic product numbers out in the US today showed the economy grew by 2.5% in the third quarter, the strongest performance for a year. And economists are saying this shows the economy, which looked like it was heading for a double-dip recession, is now strengthening and is pulling away from that prospect. But we shouldn't get excited too quickly. There are still questions about the US recovery and about this deal being forged in Europe. It's a short-term fix. It means that banks who will be raising capital may not be lending at a time when they need to be to stop the European economy heading towards recession. And in the longer term, it doesn't really address the bigger question of where is growth going to come from in Europe.
And in New York, 11 people are charged in a scheme where Long Island Railroad workers made up to $1 billion in false disability pension claims.
They went to doctors. The doctors don't lie. They got x-rays, MRIs. They have bad backs. They have hearing disabilities. And under the law, they got an occupational disability.
Mr. Ritigliano made those comments in 2008 in an interview with New York Times reporters investigating the disability claims of Long Island Railroad workers. But federal authorities today charged that some doctors do lie. Ritigliano is the former president of the Long Island Railroad Workers Union. He was charged along with 2 doctors and 8 others in a massive fraud scheme in which hundreds of workers allegedly made false disability pension claims. Under federal law, the railroad workers are entitled to file for disability claims. But in this instance, the doctors, the authorities said, prepared fraudulent assessments that the retirees submitted.
Employees, in many cases, after claiming to be too disabled to stand, sit, walk, or climb steps, retired to lives of regular golf, tennis, biking, and aerobics.
The claims, according to federal authorities, could cost the United States Railroad Retirement Board, the agency that funds the pensions, an estimated $1 billion. Virtually every career employee of the railroad was applying for and receiving disability payments, giving the Long Island Railroad a disability rate of 3 to 4 times that of the average railroad. Dr. Peter J. Ageman and 2 other physicians were responsible for 86% of the disability applications filed in what federal authorities called a disability mill. Ritigliano, in his words, crushed his back in an injury at home.
Since 1988, I worked with a bad back.
In the last year before he retired, he worked 500 hours of overtime and did not take a single sick day. He also filed for and received a disability pension. In 2008, he was playing golf regularly.